Hey everybody, it's Ms. Ladd with our HTML quiz review for the quiz that we're going to do tomorrow. Today is December 12th. All right. So I've asked you this question before. I've said I'm going to keep asking you this question. I'm giving you the answer to the first question on the test. What do the letters HTML stand for? And it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So we're going to talk about these pieces to help you maybe remember this more specifically. I said I was going to keep asking you this question until everybody got it right, and not everybody's gotten this right. So according to Merriam-Webster, the fourth usage of the word hyper as a prefix. So for example, in the word hypertext, um, basically means bridging points within an entity like a website or a database or a network of some kind in a non-sequential order. So what that means is that you can go from anywhere to anywhere else rather than in a linear progression like step 1, step 2, step 3. So non-sequentially means you can go to any step at any point in the process. The other point to understand is that HTML is written in plain text. The next part is markup. So hypertext markup language. Markup takes plain text and marks the start and end of elemental containers of texts. We've seen this in things like paragraphs or with the bold tag or the I tag for italic, et cetera, et cetera. We've done this with sections. We've seen this with figure. We've seen this with fig caption. These tags, these markup tags help web browsers format the plain text in a way that makes visual sense. And HTML is written in what is called a text editor. It allows it allows us to mark up the plain text. And language. Language is how we communicate. In this case, we're communicating with a computer, telling it what we need to know in order to display in the plain text that we give it, in order to display it properly. HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. Don't forget it. If you don't answer this one right, I will be very disappointed. Another important thing about HTML is that it provides structure for your content, your stuff, to make important things look important and other stuff not so much. It also helps the browser interpret what's important. We talked a little bit about semantic tags, and that's one of those things as well that just helps the browser understand what the content inside those elements are. Headings, right, are typically shorter and more important chunks of structured text on a web page. We're going to start talking about some basic tags here. The number indicates the size and importance. So H1 is the most important, therefore it is the largest. And by default, headings are bold. Okay, tags. There are numerous tags, tons and tons and tons of tags. I can't teach them all to you. But so we're going to go and, like I said, we're doing some basic tags, right? So we know headings, we know paragraphs, we know divs or dividers, break tag, the horizontal rule tag. These guys, just kind of as a quick reminder, are empty tags. See, they have nothing to contain text in. These guys are paired tags. They are not empty. They have stuff inside them. These guys do not. And that includes the image tag, which we'll talk about in a moment. We've got our ordered lists as well. And that's what they look like, right? Ordered list, unordered list, right? We'll take another quick look at tags themselves. So every tag starts with this left angle bracket, also known as the less than sign. Every tag ends with a right angle bracket or the greater than sign, also more than sign. And every tag has what's called a character in it. This P, for example, represents paragraph. Most HTML characters represent in a pretty logical fashion what item they are supposed to be. I would say the exception to this might be the anchor tag, the A tag, which is kind of it's a link tag, but we also have a link tag. which is entirely different. So that's kind of like one of those places where I can understand the confusion. But P is paragraph, right? H1 is heading 1. OL is ordered list. LI is list item. So that character, whatever this is in here between these two angle brackets, denotes the kind of element. Okay? And that's known as the character. Or sometimes we'll know this as the tag, or if we're using this in CSS, this might be a selector. Okay. So another important part of elements is that sometimes they have these things called attributes, and attributes give us more information about the elements. So in this case, we're specifying, hey, this paragraph, we want the language attribute to be set to English or US English specifically. And here we have paragraph in English versus like we want to set a paragraph in Spanish, right? P lang equals ES. So lang is the attribute name, and ES would be the attribute value, and it would be an indication to the browser that this is a paragraph that's in Spanish. If you have an entire web page in Spanish, you can have the lang attribute in your HTML tag and have it set to ES, and this would tell the browser immediately this is a Spanish page. All right. Single tags, I mentioned them before, right? The image tag is considered an empty tag because there's no text content inside. See, there's no text content inside. It's just attributes. So it has to have a valid SRC attribute, otherwise it won't be displayed. It'll just be like a little broken image. So you've got to make sure that the SRC attribute is there and that it goes to a valid path, a valid item that exists in this location. The alt tag is for screen readers and for people who are visually impaired, and it shows up if you don't have a proper SRC value. So you can at least go, oh, cute dog's supposed to be here. Let me go find that image, fix that. Additionally, CSS styling can be directly applied to elements. We haven't really talked about this in class, and float right is the attributes value, but you can have more than one CSS style applied directly on an element. And this is float right, which basically tells the image to float to the right. And it will go off to the right and go up as far as it possibly can until it runs into a blocking element. So more stuff about tags, right? Here's a single tag. It's called a meta tag. And typically these guys are in the head. And this is content that is not viewed by the user. These empty single tags are solely comprised of attributes. So in this case, we have a car set as an attribute name and UTF-8 as an attribute value. And just so you know, UTF-8 encodes almost all characters from all languages that are known by humans. Same thing here. We have another meta tag, name equals author. So name and car set, basically, they have the value, right? Content is another attribute, right? And in this case, the meta name author says, hey, this is a meta tag and it describes the author of the content, and that would be me or you in pages that you make. All right, here's our basic HTML structure, right? We have our doc type. This lets the browser know that this is HTML5. We have HTML, see the start and the end tag here. Then we have our head tag and our body tag. And this is where we put, in the body tag is where we put all the stuff that we plan to show to the users. This is information specifically for the browser. For the software to interpret. So like our style tags go in here, unless we're putting something very specifically on an element. Our link tag to a CSS page, for example, those are things that the browser needs in order to interpret how to display what's on the page. The meta tag is also good for like search engines and things like that. It gives the search engine context for this page. And that's why they're put in the head. We've talked a fair amount about file extensions, and I've shown you how to display them on your desktop computer. JPEGs, for example, are images, PSDs are Photoshop files, MP4 is a movie, PNGs are images, HTML, that is an extension for your HTML page. CSS, same thing, CSS style sheet, JS for JavaScript, PDF is for a PDF. You know, this is an Illustrator file, this is an InDesign file, this is a PHP file, and this is a TIFF file. TIFF files are very high resolution and in-depth images. They tend to be very large in file size, but they're very good when we use them in Photoshop or in Illustrator. And sometimes we might use them in InDesign as well. Okay, this is a directory tree. So like whenever you click on the folder icon in Windows, you'll see like a bunch of files that are inside of that folder. Sometimes you'll see folders that are inside of that folder. And this is just a visual representation of our website, how we're going to organize our files. Note the .html file extension. It's very important. Okay. We've talked about links before, but I'm going to go specifically over external links because they direct you to a web page or a resource. And very important, this hypertext reference, href, will send you to what's called an absolute path or an absolute URL. And so this would take us directly to google.com. We use the absolute file address when we are sending somebody away from our website. So that's important to know. Okay, let's talk a little bit about CSS text properties. Everything pretty much has a property and a value. So text align, colon, you would then pick one of these items, such as left, center, right, or justify. Same thing with color, but with color you have several different options in which you can call forth a color. So you can use what are called CSS named colors. That would be things like blue or Rebecca purple or red violet, or there's just a huge number of them. This was a hexadecimal value. I have that referenced down here, hexadecimal color code. The first two characters involve red, the second two characters involve green, and the third set of characters involves blue. Same thing with the RGB color code, right? Because our pixels are in red, green, and blue, right? We need to tell it how much red to turn on, how much green to turn on, how much blue to turn on. If this was 0, 0, 0, we'd have no red, no green, no blue, and that would be black. If we had 255, 255, 255, that would be all red, all green, all blue, and that would be white. Okay. So this is the end of the HTML review. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you in class.